Hello everyone and welcome back to a new episode of Passion for Work, putting human back in human capital. Our guest today heads the HR for a company that has almost 40,000 people across the world, and they are one of the large participators in Dubai's economy. Robin Windley is the Senior Vice President of Human Capital for DP World. Robin, thank you for being with us today.
Pleasure. Nice
Really
to be
appreciate
here.
it. The obvious first question I want to ask you is how important is passion in the workplace, especially when it comes to such a large-scale organization?
Yeah, very good question. The philosophy that we have as an employer is we don't want people to come to work because they feel they have to. Clearly, for a number of people, that's something that motivates them because at the end of it, they need a salary. But what we want to do is we want to generate a level of enthusiasm in them to make them feel like they actually want to. They don't have to, they want to come to work. And we always say when anybody gets to the point where they cease to feel that that's the case, that's the time to move on. Now, what we do as an employer has a significant impact on whether these guys or ladies feel, you know what, I want to be working for this company or I don't. So that's where we have to ensure that we're continuously evaluating and making sure that our people are an engaged workforce.
I love that. And when you say that, it sounds easier said than done, because scale here plays a big role. I mean, it's easier to motivate 10, 20 people, 100 people, maybe a few thousand. But when you're reaching a workforce of close to 10,000 just in the UAE alone, and then you've got to triple or quadruple that around the world, how do you actually make that measurable without losing the energy? Because it's easy to keep it organic,
Sure.
and it's easy to go very mechanic, but to
Yeah.
make passion on that scale?
Yeah, it's a very, very good point. One of the very important factors, as far as we're concerned, is we run an engagement survey. It's a biannual survey. We first started to run it in 2008, which when you consider the timing was, I think, particularly relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is run across all of our employees in our business. The thing with the engagement survey is very much about what you do with the information though, rather than just the fact that you can say, you know what, we run a survey.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that we focused on from the very beginning was, okay, we're running a survey, but what are we going to do with the data? So as soon as that data starts to come in, what we are doing is we are analysing it, and we're creating focus groups. We're speaking to the business, to our employees, and saying, well, this was the feedback you gave us, what did it really mean? Then, of course, it's up to us to say, okay, we take that information from you, and this is what we're going to do about it as a consequence. Now, that's a process in itself. But of course, what we also need to do is make sure that we are continuously communicating with them throughout, so that they actually feel as if they're part of it. So in other words, when I talk to 37,000 people, each one of them feels I'm actually talking to them personally, not to a collection. Then the likelihood is that they're going to feel that what I'm doing is for them and not just for everybody. And that makes it personal, and that's what makes it motivating.
I like that. Well, you brought a very interesting point that you actually started the survey pretty much the time about when things were starting, I don't know, to nosedive all the way down. That would have been an interesting experience because, yes, passion was high at the early of 2008. Pretty much I remember around September, October 2008, things started going crazy. How were you able to keep the passion for those who remained? Because you obviously had to let go of a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I qualify that. You make a very fair point. When we talk about having to let go a lot of people, I think in comparison to what you saw in a lot of businesses, particularly in this part of the world, actually we did extremely well. And even those people that we did let go, we tried to relocate. Mm. So wherever possible, we created opportunities or we sourced opportunities so that we actually minimized the impact. But the reality was this, because I was here, the general consensus would have been at that time, you know what, this is a really difficult period. Everybody felt it, whether it was materially or whether it was just the fact that it was what was going on around them, everybody felt it. So in order to make people feel, you know what, don't just focus on the short term, but think about how things were previously and believe in what they can be again. And if you continuously talk about that positive message, it's what you continuously imbibe. What was positive was the fact that we were there with a view to understanding what we needed to do for the long term. We were not a short-term and never will be a short-term employer. Mm-hmm. So whilst there will always be corrections in a business, people will focus on the long term if you continuously position the fact that, you know what, we're a business that's here for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We're not a business that's here for 3 or 4.
I see. And how would you now, in the current situation, you know, you've gone up, you've gone down, and people obviously have renewed faith because they've seen the whole long-term perspective. It's easier to see it on top, but when you're further down, you can't see it as easy. So how easy is it for you to keep that passion and engagement in the workplace throughout the year, not only when it's time for us to talk and for us to take a survey or for us to have an Eid celebration or a Christmas celebration, but on a day in, day out?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting point. And I think, you know, I look at this 2 ways. One is that I'm not trying to prepare people for an engagement survey so I get a good result. Because frankly, anybody that had any level of intelligence would see straight through it. This is more about, as I said before, learning from the opinions of our employees and wherever possible trying to do something that they feel is important. Then put that to one side. The other dimension is, what are we offering our employees as an employer? Because our philosophy always has been, you know, we want to be seen as an employer of choice. We want people to feel, you know what, I want to go and work for DP World because I feel that they offer me something different. And that's not about salary, that's not about monetary benefits, it's about why does this company attract people and retain them? The fact is we have extremely low attrition rates as an employer, and one of the reasons is because people feel, you know, this company, it looks after me. Now that's easy to say, but what does it mean in reality? Well, it means that we try to ensure that whatever we do with a view to the best interests of the employee.
I see, so it's obvious that you're carrying this whole long-term perspective and ongoing, not just from ups and downs. You're just keeping it steady, rather than, okay, we're an employer of choice because we're the coolest, the hippest, we're the Google, we're whatever. We're just, you seem to be matching the industry you're in, very solid, very steady, very grounded.
And that's really interesting because one of the things we recognize is, as an employer, people don't look at our industry immediately and think, you know what, that's an industry that I'd love to get into. Because in many ways it's a transparent, it's a hidden industry. People see and they buy products every day, but they don't really know where they come from, right? I mean, as far as they're concerned, they buy it from a shop. It comes from a shop. Yeah, but how does it get into the shop? Okay. That's the piece that we have to play in this whole logistics chain. But getting people to understand that and feel passionate about it, it's not an easy thing to do. It's reality. People are not going to look at us in terms of what we have to offer, in terms of the dynamism of our industry, certainly compared to a Google. So we have to focus on other things. We have to give people a feeling that, you know what, this is a great company, I want to work for them, and by the way, it's got a future, because that's also very important. And I think that's where we have an advantage, because as I said, and you rightly pointed out, you know, there are ups and downs generally in life. But if we can be seen as a certain level of stability for everybody, then I think that's a good thing also.
Awesome. I guess there's no better way for us to conclude this interview, which has been eye-opening. And as you said, it's one of those industries that you don't see there, but it's the back end and the engine behind a lot of stuff. So thank you very much for this great interview, and I'm sure our viewers have enjoyed it.
You're more than welcome.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Passion! I hope you really enjoyed this episode and found it very useful and enlightening as much as I did. If you like what you've seen, comment below and share it with your friends. And if you'd like more exclusive interviews, tools, tips and techniques, then go to Moustafa.com. Until the next episode, live passionately.